I'm Mark Frost, and you're listening to Twin Peaks Unwrapped.
The Sycamore trees in the dark trees that blow baby.
Welcome to Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Ben Durant, and beside me is...
Bryon Kazaska.
Hi, Bryon.
Hey, Ben. How are you?
Good.
Good. It's Twin Peaks month for 25 Years Later site, and with us we have Lindsay from Bickering Peaks.
And 25 Years Later site. Hi, Lindsay.
How are you?
Good.
So it was just last week that you put out an article.
I was asked to kind of do a deep dive of the Cooper autobiography, My Life, My Tapes. It kind of took a strange turn as things within Twin Peaks tend to do. It took a little bit of a weird turn, and I ended up writing it from the perspective of Tammy Preston, as if she were the one investigating the book. She had found these transcribed tapes, and on her way to Twin Peaks to finish the final dossier, she decided to look at My Life, My Tapes, the transcripts, and kind of figure out like what happened to Agent Cooper. Where was he? Where did he go? What was he like? Let's find out some more information about it. And it was kind of that framing narrative that I used to kind of deep dive into what's presented in the autobiography itself. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff that happens in the autobiography, as you know, if you've read it. So,
yeah.
So it was kind of a neat little exercise for that.
It seems like a challenge because, I mean, when you probably put your articles together, there's probably a length you guys want to stay at. But you have a whole book you're kind of covering, and like, how do you decide how much you're going to get into?
Yeah, no, and definitely. I mean, obviously with an online magazine or journal, I mean, your readers are only going to have so long of an attention span. It's hard to read on the computer as opposed to reading a physical copy. So, I mean, you try and keep it to a certain word length or length of an article. But yeah, when you're doing a whole book, it does present some challenges. So originally I was going to do this as a longer, maybe 3 or 4 part series, but we decided in the end that wrapping it all up in one would be more rewarding maybe for the readers. So it is a bit on the long side, but and then you decide what are you going to include and what are you not going to include. And I think framing it from Tammy Preston's point of view, there are some things that you could leave out and let people discover on their own as they read it, because Tammy Preston in universe wouldn't know those things. She wouldn't necessarily know about the man in the green jacket, for instance, right? And how that ties into Dougie Jones wearing the green jacket in Twin Peaks: The Return. So I didn't touch on some of that stuff, but hopefully readers will be able to read it themselves and maybe make those connections.
That's cool.
I love the style that you did this in. I think it's great to have Tammy kind of doing more investigation, and even going from the beginning that like she doesn't have the tapes, she just has the transcript in a book format and stuff. And I thought that was really clever. The readers can really appreciate.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, and obviously, I mean, not everybody has read it. It's a book that's out of print, so it's harder to talk about that in general and make it interesting if not everybody has read it. So, I mean, there's obviously the transcript that's on Glastonbury Grove and a few other places. I linked to one that's an iBook and PDF version that you can get online. But to make it interesting and to adopt that voice of Tammy Preston was kind of a fun exercise. Felt a little bit more like fan fiction, I think, which... You know, maybe fan fiction light, let's call it that. But yeah, it was a fun exercise, that's for sure.
And I'm so glad you brought up the dreams that Cooper's mom had, that he had. And I mean, dreams played such a big part in season 3, but I guess it really did throughout the whole series. And I'm so like
Cooper's life.
I was reading the beginning and it's like I hope Lindsay gets into mystical and
yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, and the dream absolutely, like dreams play such a huge role in not just Twin Peaks, but all of Lynch's stuff, right? Like there's this element of dreaminess or dream logic playing in there, and that Cooper's mother was touched by that too. It adds this depth to his story that I think, even though he's such a well-rounded character, I really love the autobiography for giving us that backstory to him and that mystery and intrigue about his upbringing, leading back to all of those dreams that are so present throughout the entire run of the show.
And bringing Tammy into it is interesting. Have you shared this with Mark Frost? Did you at him on Twitter?
I did not. I'm a little nervous that he's going to read it and be like, she stole my character. I'm going to get sued for it or something.
No, he would love it. I honestly believe he would love it because, I mean, he gave us the first glimpse of Tammy.
Yeah.
Before we knew who Tammy was.
Right.
I mean, I think that'd be
Yeah.
really cool.
Well, maybe I will at him on Twitter.
You
and see.
should. It'd be
should,
fun.
yeah.
It'd be fun. And it is kind of like an extension of Secret History of Twin Peaks and the dossier.
Yes.
Because I feel like, you still have that structure of, you first started with Tammy sending a note to Gordon Cole.
The following dossier was compiled by FBI Special Agent Tamara Preston just prior to her investigation in and around Twin Peaks, Washington in September 2017. Interoffice Memorandum. Date August 10th, 2017. From Tamara Preston, Special Agent. To Gordon Cole, Deputy Director. Dear Director Cole, enclosed is the result of my investigation into the mysterious transcribed tapes recently rediscovered in Philadelphia. Why they were transcribed in the first place, I can't tell you. I'm even more baffled as to how they came to be filed away in mislabeled boxes so as to escape investigation earlier in Agent Cooper's disappearance, though I now have my suspicions. Be that as it may, here are my preliminary findings. I hope it helps. Sincerely, Tamara Preston, Field Agent, Blue Rose Task Force.
Yeah, I think it works out pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you think so. Like I said, it was an experiment. It wasn't anything. We've not really gone into this realm on 25 years later yet. It's something that we've kind of played with, but not seriously. So I'm hoping that we do more of these. It can become something more regular, something like creative nonfiction, would be a fun avenue to explore. And it just seemed like the perfect format to really play with it here. So I'm glad you think it worked out. I hope the other readers feel the same way.
Totally.
Yeah.
Reading it to me feels like you had a lot of fun with this. Was there parts to it that you really looked forward to, like writing and sharing with the readers?
I got most excited when I started doing the Interoffice Memorandum at the beginning, and then having this notion in my head of her writing an email on a plane. I kind of had that come fairly late in the writing of the article. So I thought, as a real framing narrative, to have her writing directly to Director Cole was really exciting for me to kind of share. But then also just her idea of getting into the relationships that Agent Cooper experienced in his life with all the different women, that white knight kind of complex that he might have, and exploring that through the eyes of the really amazing character who, like you said, was first introduced to us in the Secret History of Twin Peaks. She was kind of a controversial figure, I guess, as the return unfolded, because the presentation of her on the screen wasn't what a lot of people expected of her, what we got on the written page. So to have that character come back and kind of explore some of the female characters that Agent Cooper has interacted with in his life was really fun. So I thought that was a really interesting thing to delve into.
I like Tammy's character in the book more, but I kind of felt like her character, it would have been great if we got to explore more of her character in the show. It was kind of a letdown because I felt like Gordon Cole had the spotlight, really.
Yeah.
And Tammy was she was by Albert majority of the time and sitting down somewhere and just giving us this information about the Blue Rose, what a tulpa is. So I kind of felt like we were getting information
is,
through
Tammy
her.
was really us in some ways.
Yes.
Tammy
Yeah.
was,
Yes.
we didn't know all the information, and the way that they were able to give us all the
Yes.
information was through Tammy. Yeah.
But it would have been great if we saw Tammy actually like doing the things we read about her doing in the book. Other than just the writing was different. Maybe if Mark Frost had like when he was doing the show, he's like, all right, I'm going to focus on the Tammy storyline, So.
Right.
Emails and all this investigation comes after season 3. Is that right? Is that where this all fits in?
Yeah, the impetus for it was kind of a rereading the final dossier, and there's a line, I don't have the book in front of me, but I think it's on page 66 or 67, where she mentions the tapes, she mentions having gone through them, and that the final dossier is compiled in early September 2017, right? So this would have to be before that, but after the events that we saw in the return. So it's happening sometime after whatever happened in the sheriff's station and her writing the final dossier and coming to the realization that Laura Palmer didn't die and all of that craziness that happened in the final dossier. So it's somewhere in there. I think I put it at the end of August, but yeah, sometime in between the end of the return and the writing or the compiling of the final dossier. Yeah.
I didn't realize it until when I was reading your article, but Cooper most likely is missing again. Like, I guess I don't like to think that. Like, they think, oh no, he's doing his investigation and he's going to help out Carrie or Laura Palmer, and he's just working on his investigation. But probably to everybody else, he's gone missing again.
He's Richard. He's not Cooper.
Don't go into that again. No. But I'm saying, no matter what, he's probably to Gordon Cole and to Tammy and to everybody. He's just gone AWOL again.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's interesting.
He pulled a Chet Desmond.
Yeah. Except instead of reaching under the truck or the camper, he just went down into the basement and disappeared. Didn't come back.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
If you ever do this again, I would love to have another article from you, but through Diane. Like, I'd love to have Diane somehow responding to all tapes. But, like, you could have a whole fan fiction series of every time he has said something to Diane, hear Diane's end of things. It's like, oh, he wants those.
Be fun.
He wants those earplugs, and he wants this. And everyone's like, it's like, fuck you, Dale.
That would be cool. And then you could even take the scene from Firewalk with Me where that was deleted.
Yes,
when he's doing
his
exercises. And you could like be on the opposite side of that as Diane saying like what her thoughts were.
Right.
Like, Cooper,
That's
what
fun.
are you doing?
That would be a lot of fun.
You know, Diane's such an interesting character because if I remember correctly in the book there, they go on a date.
Yeah, they get Duck.
Right.
Yeah, they have Duck. And, you know,
Duck.
before I read the book, I was telling Ben, I'm like, oh, I don't want Diane to be real. I want Diane to be, it's like Siri almost. It's like he's just talking to nobody but because he's lonely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Diane was great in season 3.
Yes. Laura Dern killed it. Yeah.
No one else could have played her.
Yes.
I know.
And that whole date, to this day, I still think it's a very sexual, like the way they're talking about the duck being prepared, and I feel like it's very risque.
Well, don't they imply something happened or no?
I don't know, but I always thought in the book it seems to me like they implied that it could have been more than just
Duck.
Well, I think Agent Cooper, like there's an interlude where Diane is writing in the book, or she has like a little interlude where she says that it was just one date and nothing happened. But then Cooper says that in one of his replies on the tape, he says that he realizes he doesn't even know her last name. So it does really imply that either like maybe they went to bed together once, or it ended with a kiss and that was it. But he doesn't even know her name, and they shouldn't mix business with pleasure. And it's just which is interesting.
That's true. And plus he fell for Caroline. Yeah.
Caroline.
Have you getting feedback from the community about your article?
Yeah, there's been a few reshares and some positive comments on Reddit and Facebook. I've been pinged a few times with people sharing it or resharing it again, which is really cool. I think the most rewarding thing for me would be to kind of share the original, like My Life, My Tapes with more people, because I feel like the Secret Diary, rightfully so, gets a lot of attention. It got re-released. It got the audiobook. What was it, 2018, I guess?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
It was released.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it gets a lot more press, and it's definitely a wonderful book. But My Life, My Tapes has been out of print for almost 30 years. And so to kind of expose more people to that would be the most gratifying thing, because it is such I think anyway, and maybe it's a controversial opinion because I know a lot of people aren't super keen on it, but I think it's a wonderful addition to the Cooper mythos, I guess. So that would be the greatest gift for me, I think. I
agree. It's something that people should check out. And Scott Frost, who's Mark Frost's brother, wrote that book, and he also wrote a few episodes of Twin Peaks. And he also wrote for the actual audio tape. Yeah. And then you have this book, but it's like, I don't know, I've been confused sometimes. Like, okay, you have these two things that are dealing with the tapes. One's the audio.
Does seem kind of confusing.
But anyways, both Scott Frost did both of those.
Right.
I'm really surprised that it wasn't reprinted with the series coming back. Like, it seems like a missed opportunity for whoever has the rights to it.
Yeah, I don't know who has. Penn Macmillan was the original publisher, but I'm not sure if they still own the rights to reprint it. But I'm surprised too, because especially with the way that the story kind of leaves Cooper's arc, right? Like you would think that if they wanted to, well, maybe that's the case. Maybe Lynch and Frost don't want us to worry about it too much, so they're not concerned with expanding that mystery. But it does seem to feed very nicely into a lot of the things that were brought up in the conversations and the articles and the theories that have been written, and just the way we interpret the finale of The Return. Cooper's backstory does play into it very nicely, I think, and this is what this book deals with 100%.
And what I love what you did in this article is that the book is not consistent with some of the show and about Fire Walk with Me, and I love that you find creative ways to kind of maybe explain that or at least have Tammy question that stuff. I think that was brilliant on your end.
Yeah, well, it seemed like a perfectly plausible in-universe thing to say. Well, Diane maybe doctored the tapes, or or just didn't transcribe it properly because human error or whatever. Like it's things that went through my mind the first time I read it. I thought, well, how can there be all these inconsistencies? And now that we know that Diane wasn't necessarily Diane the entire time,
right, it
adds that element of intrigue there as well. Like, was she messing with the transcripts in these tapes the entire time?
Yeah.
So who knows?
Like that. I like that a lot, though. I'm so glad that you brought that up and brought that into it. And you find a clever way to have Tammy be thinking these things or questioning these things. And nice touch.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
And what else are you working on at 25 Years Later site?
Well, I mean, we've got Twin Peaks month stuff coming up. I mean, we've got the whole Secret Diary series that's going to be coming out, and we've got some amazing theory pieces from David Titterington and a few other people that are just, they've blown my mind. Some things relating back to First Nations, Native American mythology. There's just so much new stuff that people are still thinking about and coming up with that I'm just amazed. Every time I get an article to edit, I'm just reading it, and I'm right back in the return mode. Like I'm living in it. It's so phenomenal to be on the receiving end of some of this stuff. I can't wait to share it with everybody. We're just thrilled with how Twin Peaks month is shaping up for us. Personally, though, I'm kind of taking a back seat on the writing side of things to just edit all the plethora of material that we've got coming in. I'm a reader just like everybody else now, which is fun for me.
Well, you guys are doing a great job. I get an email every day on the articles that you guys are doing. It's amazing this day and age. You think I would hear about all this information from other sources, but a lot of times it's your site that I learn about things for the first time. I think it was like the Ghostbuster 3 coming back. I think it was John Bernardy who did that. And that was the first I had heard about that. It was like, and then I go in other places and there's a trailer and things like that. But it's funny that I hear it first from you guys, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, the news division that we kind of have recently come up with, Jen is kind of piloting that, and she is spearheading a team full of people that are just so passionate, and they're all plugged into exactly the right places to get all this information so quickly. I'm amazed too. Like, I'll log in we communicate via Slack, and every morning I log in, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, because I don't know where they find their information. I just let them go, and Andrew and Laura and we just kind of say, do what you do, and you're doing amazing. This is awesome.
Yeah. At one time, you were guys doing like 2 articles a day, and now I think you guys are up to 3 articles a day. But do you when these breaking news comes, is that not counted as an article? And you guys are just like, we got to get the word out right away? Is like how does that work?
Yeah, well, we kind of have like our set spots, like our TV article, a movie article, a Twin Peaks article, if we have one. Especially for Twin Peaks month, we've got pretty much an article a day coming out. And then the news articles, we just kind of pepper them throughout. If we have something really exciting, it'll be, lunchtime, hit the lunchtime crowd on the East Coast, or we'll hit the, evening crowd or whatever, to try and separate them as much as we can. But we just kind of send it out when it makes sense. So if we end up with a day where we release 6 articles, that so be it, right?
Yeah.
So.
You guys are the one-stop shop. You're the new Entertainment Weekly.
We certainly try to be.
Yeah.
I think you are.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I would say so. You guys do cover such a wide range of things. And like Ben was saying, the news. I'll see it on the Facebook feed. I'll see you guys probably first over anybody else, I think. I don't know how Facebook figures out things. Anything you're watching or reading or anything?
Well, I've been really busy with, I'm a teacher as well on top of all the other stuff that I do. And we are studying Shakespeare right now. So I've been watching this BBC sitcom called Upstart Crow. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. It doesn't seem to be airing anywhere
I
here.
haven't
So
heard
we've
of
been.
it.
No.
You haven't heard of it?
I haven't.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like a sitcom starring David Mitchell as Shakespeare, set in Elizabethan England, and it's hilarious. It's full of in jokes for the Shakespeare crowd, and it's really funny and quite smart, but also pretty muddy as well. Like it gets dirty sometimes. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But that's what I've been watching really, and all the other stuff that I watch in the background when I'm marking, Cheers and all those reruns. Those are
Yes.
I'm definitely not the person you want covering the news. That's for all the people who are up to date on all the latest stuff. I'm so far behind on my watching. I catch up with everything. Like I said, I'm a reader right now. I read everything that 25 Years Later puts out, and that's where I learn about it.
Nice.
Which is great.
Cool.
So.
And I said before we started, I was talking to you, and I was like, I miss bickering peaks. I miss you and Aiden bickering about something and stuff. Will we ever get some more bickering peaks?
Yes, you will. We are working on kind of reworking our podcast to expand out beyond the world of Twin Peaks and maybe cover some other things. So I would stay tuned. Hopefully by mid-April, we'll have some new stuff coming out. Wherever you listen to fine podcasts, you will find some new stuff from us. I can almost guarantee it. So mid-April is when we'll have new stuff out.
Nice.
Cool. Very nice.
Very cool. Now, will it be part of the same feed that your podcast is putting out right now? Or will it be a new thing?
No, it's going to be part of the same feed. We might change our name to try and capture a little bit more of the, we're the Bix. That's what people know us as online. So I think the new name of the pod we'll have a new name for the pod. We haven't quite landed on anything yet. We're still kind of in the working phases, but it's an interesting time because, until there's more Twin Peaks, we still want to do the podcast, but we want to try and expand out beyond that so that we can cover more things and things that are still interesting to us and hopefully interesting to listeners. And then if and when we get new Twin Peaks, Bickering Peaks will be back to discuss it all. So hopefully we'll get more of that too.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear it'll be on the same feed because it's like a present whenever I get a new show. I was like, I get to listen to you guys on the way to work or something.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
It's so good talking to you. Can you tell people how they can check out 25 Years Later site and how they could follow you and Bickering Peaks?
Absolutely. So 25yearslatersite.com is where you can find all of our articles. We publish, like we were saying, 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 articles a day, depending on the day. You can follow us on Twitter at 25 Years Later Site, same on Instagram. We have our Facebook page, which is up and running. So 25 Years Later Site, Damn Fine TV and Film. Me personally, you can follow me at Lindsay Stam on Twitter. And Bickering Peaks is still at Bickering Peaks on Twitter and Facebook. So that's a lot of information to throw at you listeners, but hopefully, you follow some of us or all of us there.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Awesome. And
thank you.
If you have a comment, question, or theory, give us an email at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. Give us that 5-star review and follow us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on Google Play. Like us on Facebook at Twin Peaks Unwrapped. And Ben, how's the old Twitter?
Twitter's great. Good place. Great place to hang out with people and just talk Twin Peaks.
Yeah, and it's Twin Peaks month and 25 Years Later, so check out them. All links are in the show notes, and we'll see everybody next week.
This is Rob King with 25 Years Later. Our staff and editors would like to thank you for reading our site. We began as a site dedicated to the analysis of Twin Peaks, but today we are happy to share our expanded material for similarly intricate series, popular culture fandoms, film, and Shudder content. We will continue to extend our love for Twin Peaks' deep exploratory analysis in the fan community as we look to each of these. So please join us as we discuss film releases from A24, Shudder, and Shout Factory, as well as series like Lost, Northern Exposure, and the OA, just to name a few. And you won't want to miss our lineup of interviews from Twin Peaks cast and crew to the directors of Shudder original content and more. And as always, we hope to bring you thoughtful, deep analysis to the series that brought us together, Twin Peaks. So again, thank you always for your time and dialogue with 25YO.